Good morning. Thank you for joining us here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for the STS-133 pre-countdown status briefing for Space Shuttle Discovery's mission to the International Space Station. Joining me today is Jeff Spaulding, NASA Test Director.
Good morning.
And Kathy Winters, Shuttle Weather Officer.
Good morning.
We'll hear from our panelists and take questions. Jeff.
Thank you, Candria. And good morning to everyone, and welcome. I'm very proud to be back here today to provide launch countdown status. It's been a couple of months, obviously, since the last time we did that, as we're preparing to get Discovery ready to fly on the STS-133 mission. This will be Discovery's 39th and final flight, and she is bringing the Permanent Multipurpose Module, the PMM, up to the station along with the Express Logistics Carrier. It's been an interesting and exciting and probably challenging few months for us over the last since we've been here last. This will be the second longest vertical flow for the vehicle of Discovery. The vertical flow starts when we roll out of the orbiter processing facility. The longest one for us was STS-35, it was 183 days, and this one will be 170 if we make our launch date on Thursday the 24th, which we're certainly planning on doing. As you recall, this vertical flow started for us on September the 9th when we did roll out of the processing facility. And we spent some time in the VAB, rolled out on the 20th of September, out to the launch pad for the first time. Flow was going very well. We did have a leak, as you recall, on our OMS pod, and we had to replace one of our flange seals. That was one of the big topics we had before our first launch. We did make the launch attempt on November the 5th, and again, as you all probably recall, we did end up scrubbing for a leak on our hydrogen vent line. And in addition, we found some cracks on the external tank foam. Those were associated after some further inspection with a stringer, and we went ahead and repaired those at the launch pad, and we targeted a new launch date of November the 30th. At that point, we did have some further discussions about how much evaluations we needed to do at the pad and decided to go ahead and do a tanking test, and we did that test on December the 17th. We added a lot of instrumentation to the tank to support that test to give us some more data so that we understood the nature of the crack and what types of things might have caused that. We also made the decision to roll back to the vehicle assembly building and did so on the 21st of December, right before Christmas, so that we could complete all of the non-destructive evaluations of the tank, because at the pad we only have access to a portion of the tank, and by rolling back to the vehicle assembly building, that gave us full access 360 degrees around the tank itself. So those evaluations went well, and we decided, based on the data that we did of those evaluations, to do a radius block mod on the stringers where we had seen some cracks, to beef those up a little bit and give us some more structural integrity. Those mods went extremely well, and we were able to roll back to the pad on January the 31st. And since that time, we've been working diligently to get the vehicle back into launch configuration, changing out some of those time-based consumables like batteries and some provisions and other things. Additionally, we had to replace mission specialist Tim Copra with Steve Bowen on this mission, and Steve Bowen will be performing all the duties that Mr. Copra would have been doing. And as a result of that, we also changed out the spacesuit since he's going to be doing our spacewalks as well. So that got us to where we are today. Last night, we did complete our flight pressurization of our on-orbit control system tanks as well as our main propulsion system tanks, and that operation went very well, just as planned. I got the pad back open about 5:45 this morning. Since that time, we've been working deconfiguring from that up and also getting ready to perform our launch countdown preparations. And all of that will continue throughout the day as we get into call to stations this afternoon at 2:30 for the launch countdown, and then our countdown clock will begin counting at 3 o'clock from T-minus 43 hours. At that point, we'll get right into our final checkout and configuration of our onboard avionics systems, and then we'll work preparations for fuel cell reactants later tonight. At 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, we will clear the pad for the loading of those reactant operations and continue those preps until the actual loading, which starts at 12:30 in the afternoon. We expect the pad to open up about 6 tomorrow evening from that up, and then we'll continue with about 120 pounds of liquid oxygen that we continue to offload of the vehicle to get us to our appropriate flight load and flight mass for that system, which is about 4 more hours of work to do there. We will proceed with our checkout of our orbiter and ground communication systems and all of the networks associated with those on Wednesday afternoon at about 2:30, followed then by our final flight crew equipment stowage operations at about 4. On Wednesday evening, the rotating service structure will be pulled back away from the vehicle, and the xenon lights will be turned on, revealing the vehicle in its launch form for the last time, and that'll be about 8 o'clock on Wednesday evening when we do that. Then as we go just past midnight, about 12:30 or so, our countdown clock will resume from T-minus 11 hours, And then at that point, we'll begin our final loading preparations and begin clearing the pad about 2 a.m. on Thursday morning. Our earliest tanking time is at 7:25 Thursday morning. Takes about 3 hours as normal. And then we'll bring the flight crew out once we get the crew module configured at about 1:30 on Thursday afternoon. Our launch window is about 10 minutes or so in length, opens at 4:45 on Thursday the 24th. We will target the middle of that window, which correlates to about 4:50 p.m. on Friday, February the 25th, and then every day thereafter. We do have some Flight Day 4 rendezvous capability from a launch window perspective, which means that'll give us about 3 extra minutes or so on that 10-minute launch window for those days beginning on Friday the 25th. Now, we do have launch opportunities up through and including March the 6th before we run into some station constraints on our dual docked operations, because we have quite a few vehicles up there and things will be moving around, the Soyuz and the HTVs, et cetera. Before we get upon that, though, we do have some range constraints that are out there. There's an Atlas V on the range on March the 4th, and a Delta IV on the range on March the 11th. So what that says is right now we have, from a planning perspective, we'll have the February 24th through the 26th with no issues at all. Once we get to the 27th, we actually come up against the Delta, even though that's later, that constraint first, because that will be our landing dates will start to impinge on the preparations needed to prepare that Delta for launch. And then if we end up going out a day or more beyond that, then we would start potentially overlapping right on top of their launch date with landing. So that constraint is out there, as well as the ones for the Atlas on the 4th. So we'll be evaluating those, but right now the 24th through the 26th are very clear for us. We do have 3-in-a-row capability available if needed. We do the evaluations that we normally do for that. And we don't have any beta angle concerns at all the way through February or March. Our pad hold time is 8 days for liquid hydrogen, 9 for liquid oxygen, so we got plenty of time there. With that 120-pound offload, though, we do eliminate our 48-hour turn capability if we have to do a top-off, meaning if we do any top-off ops, it'll take at least 72 hours to perform that. It's an 11-day mission with 1 contingency day, 2 weather days planned. End of mission landing is at KSC a little before 1 o'clock on Monday, March the 7th, and then the 8th would be the +1 day, and that's around 11:30 or so in the morning on that day. There is ATV-2 docking, if you recall, that did launch a few days back. That docking is planned for about 5 hours prior to our launch, so it's pretty close to the time frame in which we're getting ready to get off the ground. And we'll be watching that closely, and if there are any issues with that docking, then the program would go off and assess any issues or impacts to launch at that time. And if needed, we could hold at any point in the countdown from that point forward. So we'll be ready and prepared for any of those things if needed. So in summary, Discovery has been a really remarkable vehicle for us and for the program. She still has a few more miles to go before she sleeps, though. She's taken us on many amazing journeys throughout the years, and we expect this flight to be no different than any of those. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Kathy.
Well, weather is looking very good. We've had some great weather coming up to launch, particularly when we look at temperatures. Cold temperatures often become a concern for us this time of year, but we've had some really nice mild conditions with temperatures in the upper 50s for low temperatures at the pad, or ranging between the upper 50s and the low 60s. So it's been really nice weather for pre-launch processing, and that's going to continue. The only thing we do tend to get in the situation we're in now, where we have a high-pressure ridge that's offshore, we have an upper-level ridge that's over the Gulf of Mexico and over Florida. And what happens in that case is all the cold fronts tend to stay to the north of us, and we may just get the tail end of the boundaries that come through. When that occurs, sometimes we get some fog in the morning hours, and it also can cause some sealings. And so on launch day, everything looks good right now. If we do happen to delay a couple of days, that does become a concern. We start having an increase in concern for low clouds and sealings. But for now, launch day is looking very good. Overall. Let's go ahead and look at the satellite picture. We do have an upper level ridge that's built in over the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. And so what happens in that case is the fronts just don't quite make their way down all the way to us, or if they do, it's not really the portion of the front that has all the weather. So we tend to have just some clouds that roll in with the front and nothing real significant. We're not expecting any fronts in the area until the end of the week, till the day after launch. So right now weather does look favorable for launch day. As we go into our, let's go ahead and look at our forecast for the tanking forecast. The only concern is sometimes in the southeast flow we get some morning coastal showers. It's not a constraint for tanking, and so overall temperatures are nice and mild. Winds are from the east, 8 knots, and then above the surface will be southeasterly. So we get sometimes we get some convergent bands when that occurs, and we'll get an isolated shower here or there. Overall, there's no concern for tanking We're not expecting to violate any constraints. For our launch forecast, when we get those morning coastal showers, they tend to die off in the afternoon as the air temperature warms up and gets warmer than the sea temperature. So we're not expecting those to continue. Winds should be from the southeast, a little bit breezy, gusting to 20 knots, but right up the runway for our TLS and not violating any of our wind constraints. With that, the only concern would be is if we had a slight chance for a shower in the area or a ceiling, but overall just a 20% chance of KSC weather prohibiting launch. For SRB recovery, it's just a little bit bumpy there, but no constraints will be violated. Winds will be from the southeast, gusting to 18 knots. Seas are going to be right around 69 degrees, 5 to 6 feet. And for our CONUS, our abort landing sites in the CONUS, there are some concerns, particularly with wind. For Edwards Air Force Base, we have a 34-knot peak wind there, and that is a head and tailwind constraint violation. Also, we do have a chance for showers within 30 nautical miles. And at Northrop Field, we do have a chance for some blowing dust at 4-mile visibility. So that does violate the visibility constraint. For the TAL sites, weather does look good at Zaragoza and Morone. For Istris, though, there is concern with winds there gusting up to 33 knots. And so with that, that is a headwind of 33 knots. So that's the only concern, though. The other two sites, no violations. So we do have at least one good TAL site. If we do happen to delay 24 hours, this is when a frontal boundary will start coming into the northern Florida on this day. Winds will shift around to the southwest, gusting about 19 knots. We do have just a slight concern for showers and also ceiling in the area. We do have a little more concern about the ceiling with there being more clouds coming into the area. So with that, we have a 30% chance of KSC weather prohibiting launch. For our abort landing sites in the U.S., we do have some windy weather again, 29 knots there at Edwards Air Force Base and also at Northrop, and also blowing dust being a concern there again. So overall, we do still have windy conditions on day 2 for the abort landing sites in the U.S. But the TAL sites do improve on this day. All 3 TAL sites do look good. We do have a peak wind there. It's just at 22 knots, but that is not a violation. And if we happen to delay 48 hours, this is where we start getting concerned about a ceiling, because a front will come down into the area, but it's not going to push through real cleanly. Because we have the upper level ridge in the area, it just tends to get squelched a little bit, but no real significant trough comes in, and so the fronts linger. With that, we do have more of a chance for a ceiling on this day, around 5,000 feet. And that could potentially violate it. It will depend on the thickness of the ceiling, and it would also depend on if the forward observers get good visibility on the vehicle. We also do have a chance for showers on this day. So with that, we do have a 40% chance of KSC weather prohibiting launch. For the abort landing sites out west, again, more concerns still with wind, just not good weather there all 3 days. And for the TAL sites, we do have some concerns both with Zaragoza and Istris. Space Flight Meteorology Group is forecasting showers within 20 nautical miles of both of those locations, but Morone is still a good TAL site on this day. So overall, the first day of our launch day is the best day weather-wise before that front comes down into the area, and a 20% chance of KSC weather prohibiting launch.
Thank you. We'll now take questions. When the microphone comes your way, please state your name, affiliation, and to whom you're addressing your question. Let's start with Marcia.
Press for Kathy. Is this the same weather system that's affecting both AOA sites, or is this just coincidentally bad at both? And how long is that going to continue?
Well, it is the same system, and basically what happens is they're in the trough situation out there where they get the trough and we have the ridge, and so we get the lows that come through and tighten up the gradient out there. So it is that, but I'm not sure how long it's supposed to continue. I need to check with Space Flight Meteorology Group on that, but it certainly is a factor for these days here.
And I'm wondering if either of you ever remember a launch scrub for AOA weather? I know we've had tail problems in the past.
Usually, as long as we have RTLS, it's good, but we would have to check on that. It depends on the situation on if it's mandatory, but usually it's.
I can't remember myself.
Yeah, I don't know of any time we aborted just for
AOA. Yeah,
it's usually we're good as long as we have Kennedy Space Center as a RTLS and AOA site, which we do.
So this would not be a factor. You're saying
we'll check on that to make sure.
Could. Yeah. And secondly, for Jeff. Is this sort of a silver lining that your team has had Discovery to baby, to pamper and get ready for 4 extra months that normally wouldn't have happened?
Well, I think the team always appreciates the vehicle discovery. The people that have worked on this team have loved this vehicle, for many, many years. And so it's a bittersweet thing for them to say goodbye to her on her last mission. But I think they also have put the pride and the dedication in that we've seen throughout the years. And this last few months have been no different than that. So, I think everybody's proud in what they've done, and they're really happy to see her go off on this last mission.
Todd.
Todd Halverson of Florida Today. First for Jeff, I wanted to clear up the AOA launch commit criteria. Does one of those two sites have to be available? And also, I wanted to know what would happen if you guys were delayed up until the point of March 4th and the government shut down. Would you be able to make a launch attempt in that case?
Okay, on the first one, and I would have to go back and review where we are on all of our launch abort boundaries from the AOA perspective, and to see whether we have coverage and overlap on those and for this particular mission. And I haven't looked at those specifically, but we can take a look at that and make sure that we have coverage and where we don't have coverage on the AOA ones to make sure. And maybe Kathy knows a little bit more on the weather side of it, but we would have to review that. And then on the second question, clearly we're going to go down the path and be ready to go whatever the program comes back and whatever everybody comes back and says this is going to be our plan for whatever it is, and we'll be ready to support that as we always have, regardless of what other things are out there. So I can't predict what's going to happen with all of those other things, but certainly our job is to make sure that we're ready for any posture and anything that does happen out there.
Robert.
Hi, Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. For Jeff, I realize that you said, and Mike Moses said the other day, that that if ATV couldn't dock or there was a problem, that it would be a real-time decision. But is there a scenario where if you couldn't dock on that day, that you could still launch that day? And the same thing for the next day. Would you be able to, is there a scenario where you could reset that quickly for the next day?
The program is still looking at all the different contingency options and all the different types of things that could go wrong associated with that docking in that vehicle. So I don't have all of that data. That's going to be a program decision based on what those contingency scenarios come back and say that are acceptable and those that are not. What our job is here is to make sure that we can support any or all of those and be ready in a posture from a launch perspective to be ready to go whenever they give us that green light. So those are honestly still in work, and so I can't really comment on where we are with all of those because I don't honestly know.
Thanks. And given that this is the last flight of Discovery, is the launch team at all planning to mark that milestone during the count in any way?
During the countdown, we don't really have anything planned because we like to keep everyone focused, and they always are. And I say we like to keep them, but they always are focused, and we don't like to do things to distract them. We have right along during this particular flow and on the other ones too. We've tried to take time out and mark some of the milestones along the way. And I know folks have taken the opportunities to reflect on a lot of different things, and we've done some things that are both personal and otherwise with the teams. And so we've done a lot of that along the way, and I think people will do a lot of that in their own way as we go through the remainder of the countdown. It'll be special to a lot of folks, I think.
Are there any further questions? That will conclude today's L-3 pre-countdown status briefing. As a reminder, the countdown begins this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join us live on NASA television tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern for the L-2 countdown status briefing. For more information on the STS-133 mission and crew, visit www.nasa.gov/shuttle. Thank you.